All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at your review, right triangle trig test review. But I am going to flip it over and I'm going to go over the answers to the regular triangles in the back first. Then we will go over any questions you have and we'll do the problems. Okay, so number 9 is 23 degrees. Number 9 is 23 degrees. Number 10 is 17 degrees. Number 10 is 17 degrees. I'm going to zoom out just a little. Hopefully this relaxes. Okay. Number 11 is 50 degrees. Number 11 is 50 degrees. Number 12 is 48 degrees. Number 12 is 48 degrees. Number 13 is 29 degrees. Number 13 is 29 degrees. Number 14 is 45 degrees. Number 14 is 45 degrees. Number 15 is 2.05. 2.05, that's the length. Number 16 is 13.77, again the length, 13.77. Number 17 is 5.5, 5.5. Number 18 is 37 degrees, 37 degrees. Number 19 is 8.12, 8.12. Number 20 is 6.2, 6.2. Number 21 is 12.88, 12.88. Number 22 is 66. Number 22 is 66. Number 23 is 4.6. 4.6. Okay, so out of all of those that we just went over, are there any that you would like me to go through and do, like you got a different answer than me, or you weren't sure how to do it and you left yours blank, you want to go over it in more detail? Any of these? Okay. Remember, you guys can always email me if you are doing it later and you get stuck. Okay. But let's go over in real detail all of these story problems. Okay. So I am going to do all 8 of these from beginning to end. I know it's going to take a little bit more time, but I want to make sure you get these right on your test tomorrow. Remember, the test is worth 100 points, and you can fix your quiz grade if you do better on that. All right, we're looking at number 1. A driveway that is 25 meters long is built on an incline. So I know since it's built on an incline, it is 25 meters long. It is going up the hill. Okay? Shh. All right, it has risen a distance of 4 meters. So where is that 4 meters going to go, guys? Okay, I am recording all of this, so if we could calm it down, that would be great. It really picks up your voice as well. Okay, so where does 4 meters go? On the end, up and down. Okay, that's the height. So if I'm trying to find this angle right here, 4 meters is the opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Focus over here, please. And 25 is the hypotenuse. So I'm going to write it at the top of my paper. I'm going to write SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so which one am I going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Sine, because it has that O and the H. So sine of -1. Why am I using the -1? Because I'm looking for a angle. It's opposite over hypotenuse, and I'm going to round to the nearest degree. What do I get? What'd you guys get? 9. 9 degrees. Okay? Questions about that?
So I did tan -1, and I still got 9 degrees.
So sometimes that works out well for you. I would not say that would work out every single time. 25 has to be on the incline because it says a driveway that is 25 degrees was built on an incline. So that means it has to be going upwards, okay? If the driveway was on a straight line, you know, but then it wouldn't be 4 meters in the air. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about trying to make that sense. I think the hardest part of these word problems is figuring out where to put your numbers and then what's the opposite adjacent hypotenuse. Okay, for number 2, I find the easiest way to do this is each step of the stairway is 18 centimeters, right? So each of these is 18 up with the width of 32 centimeters. So each one is 32 like this. So I am going to make this one big triangle, and I'm going to try to find this angle right here. Okay? So I'm going to do 32 times 3, which gives me 96. And I'm going to do 18 times 3, which gives me 54. I'm trying to find this angle right here. So what's 54 to that angle? Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Opposite. And what's 96? So which trig function am I going to use? Tan. And I'm going to use regular tan or inverse tan? Inverse. Yes, Madison.
So how do you know where to put the 96 and the 54?
Well, so hold on one second. I'm going to get opposite 54 over adjacent 96. So it says that each step of the stairway rises 18. So I know each of these is 18. So I know this. I went up 18, I went up 18, I went up the last 18. So I know this is 18 times 3 over here. Okay? This is the width. Each of these say 32. So that's 32, that's 32 more, that's the last 32. So that's 32 times 3 that way. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, what's tan of negative 1, 54 over 96? We get 29 degrees. Okay. How are we feeling about this, all right? Yeah? Okay, I am going to use a different paper to put my pictures, because I feel like this is hard to see. Okay, the taut string of a kite makes an angle with the ground of 65 degrees. So if I'm looking at number 3, I know that the string and the ground has an angle of 65 degrees. So where does that 65 go? On the bottom, because that's on the ground. Okay? The length of the string is 300 feet. So where do I put 300? The hypotenuse, yeah. And I want to find the height of the kite. So where does x go? Yeah. Okay, because the height would not be along the ground, right? So x is my opposite, 300 is my. So I'm going to use which trig function? Now I'm going to use sine or sine of negative 1? Sine, because I'm trying to find a length, right? So sine of 65 equals opposite x over hypotenuse 300. How do I get the x by itself? Multiply by 300. So 300 sine 65 equals x. So what does x equal? I get 271.9 feet because it says round to the nearest tenth. But, yeah. Any questions about that one? Okay, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, a ladder 400 centimeters long leans against a building. So I know almost all of these I'm starting with a right triangle. Which part of here is the ladder? The hypotenuse, right? We usually don't put ladders unless they're built to the wall, right next to the wall, because we will fall. Okay? So we've got our ladder, 400 centimeters long, leans against a building. If the angle between the ground and the ladder is 67 degrees, so where does 67 go? On the top or the bottom? Bottom. And we know this is 90 degrees right here, right? Most the ground and the wall makes 90 degrees. Okay? How far from the wall is the bottom of the ladder? So where am I putting my x? I'm putting it right on the bottom because it says between the ground and the wall. Okay? Ground and the wall. Okay, so this is my adjacent, this is my hypotenuse, so I'm using which trig function? Cosine. So cosine of 67 equals adjacent x over hypotenuse 400. How do I get the x by itself? Yep, 400 cosine 67 equals x, so x equals 156.3 centimeters, right? Okay. Questions about this one before we move on? All right. Number 5. This is the one I had the most questions on while you guys were working on this on Friday. An observation tower is 55 meters high. So that's the tower, so that's 55 meters. Okay, a support wire is attached 18 meters from the top. So I want to go down 18. If the support wire and the ground meet an angle of 47 degrees, what is the length of the support wire to the nearest tenth? Okay, so if I did not attach it right at 55, but I attached it 18 down, what does that mean this length is right here? 37. We had to go 55 minus 18 to get this side. So 37 is the opposite. X is the hypotenuse. So I'm going to use which trig function? Sine. Sine of 47 equals 37 over x. Uh-oh, I've got an x on the bottom. What do I do? You'd multiply both sides by x and then divide, or you could just, my quick one is to switch those two. X equals 37 divide sine of 47. It's just the quicker way to do it. You will get the same answer if you multiply both sides by x and then divide by sine of 47. Okay, so when I put this in my calculator, I get what? 50.6? 50.6 meters, right? Okay, questions about 5. Again, this is the one I had the most questions with, so I want to make sure you feel good about it. Uh-huh. Are we ready for number 6? Okay. So, number 6 says, the base of a rectangle measures 9 feet and the altitude measures 6 feet. Find to the nearest degree the measure of the angle that the diagonal makes with the base. Okay, so here we are with number 6. We've got a rectangle, excuse me. The base of a rectangle measures 9 and the altitude measures 6. Oh, I drew this backwards, but the base is 9, altitude is 6. No, I did it right. Okay. Find to the nearest degree the measure the angle the diagonal makes with the base. So we have to use this diagonal because we want this angle right here. So we know this is 6 as well. So 9 is the opposite adjacent or hypotenuse. And 6 is the? So which trig function am I going to use? Tan of -1 because I'm trying to find a angle. And we're doing opposite over adjacent. And so what do I get? Round to the nearest degree. 34 degrees. Okay? All right. Any questions about number 6? You ready for 7? Okay, number 7 says, an airplane which takes off from an airport traveled a ground distance, horizontal, of 3,670 feet. What is the angle of elevation from the point of takeoff to the point when the plane has traveled 4,160 feet through the air? So this is for number 7. So we've got our triangle. We went a ground distance of 3,670 feet. So that's here. Okay? Now, we traveled through the air at 4,160 feet. Where does that go? On the hypotenuse. And we are trying to find what is the angle of elevation to the point where the plane took off. So that's that angle of elevation. So this is my 3,670 is my 4,160 is my. So I'm going to use which trig function? Regular cosine? Cosine of -1 or inverse of cosine. 3,670 over 4,160. And what do I get? Is my angle to the nearest degree? 28 degrees. How are we feeling about that one? Okay? All right. Number 8. An observer is 130 feet from the base of a television tower that is 160 feet tall. Find to the nearest degree the angle of elevation of the top of the tower from the point where the observer is standing. So an observer is 130 feet from the base of a television tower, which is 160 feet tall. Find to the nearest degree the angle of elevation of the top of the tower from where you're standing. Everybody okay with how I did that? 160 tall, 130 feet away. Okay, 130 is my, 160 is my, so which trig function am I going to use? Tan of, or inverse tan, and we're going to go opposite 160 over adjacent 130, and I get how many degrees? 51 degrees. Okay, we just did all of those word problems. Is there any of those word problems you want to go over again? Anything you're still confused about? Okay, on the other side, one more time, is there any of these that you would like to talk about, go over again? Okay, I highly recommend with the rest of your class time that you spend that time looking at the problems that you might have gotten incorrectly, going over them again. Also, if you've decided, you know what, the problems that I'm having the hardest time with are the word problems, cover up the answers and try them again. If you're like, you know what, I've got the word problems, except my biggest problem is anything where I'm trying to find an angle. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do all the angle problems on the front and the back again. Look at what you need to work on, but you need to. Studying is not reading the answers to these. Studying for math is covering up what you did and seeing if you can repeat it again. Okay? So that's what I want you guys to do tonight for your studying.